It's that moment. It's the time where you decide you're going to aside that fear. You are going to just go for it. You're going to put aside everything else and you're going to cringe forward. And part of the beauty of doing that is that you're able to learn, to grow, and to change. You're going to embrace your authenticity, especially on social media. And whether it's showing up on video content or the posts that you write, you're being yourself. And something that I really love and enjoy is my friend Chris Jerry. And I'm going to have you meet her. She's going to tell you a little bit about who she is, and she's going to share her story and what she's done as an entrepreneur to be able to cringe forward through the difficult and challenging times to just own who she is and help create a wildly successful business. So, this is Chris. So, Chris, tell me a little bit about what you do for work and how it's kind of forced you out of your comfort zone to cringe forward.
For the last, oh gosh, it's 11 years now, I've helped people with content marketing, specifically with website content to drive traffic and increase sales, and also have helped more. I think we're at the 35 mark of service providers to help other businesses. And so we had 35 mamas be able to work from home now and have their own business. And that's what I've done in the last 11 years is just help others in business.
Right. And so you work with a lot of bloggers, as you mentioned before. A lot of them are mothers like you are, and they're working from home. And I know there's that term like mommy blogger
Mm.
that kind of has like a negative connotation. What do you do to kind of push back against that?
I remind the business owners that their business is a blog is just a revenue source of their business. It's a marketing strategy. They own a business that is whether it's health and wellness or it is food. Um, no matter what niche they're in, they could be like a food special, like a Italian recipe specialist, like Italian cuisine, whatever that is, own that part because that's their specialty, not the revenue streams that they're creating.
So just really creating that authentic content and owning their story and what it is that they do.
Exactly.
Do
Yes.
you what do you think is the key to some of those blogs being really successful?
When it's true, like honestly, it's when they put a little bit of themselves out there because the first thing that people need to be able to trust is the person.
Mm,
And then their content comes next because if are they sharing content that really positions them as the expert of their niche, or are they just kind of throwing out fluff? And you and I both agree that fluff doesn't do anything, but it's just empty.
right. I
Empty.
mean, and that's the number one thing. My number one core value is authenticity. And I want you to see the real Jan Campbell if you're seeing me on a live stream now, or if you're meeting me in person, or if I'm typing something out, I'm going to have that the way that I normally speak. And it's not perfect and it's kind of cringy. And I am who I am wherever I am. So many people don't, they're afraid. They're afraid of putting out, and I know it's sometimes it's a cultural issue. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
an imposter system, an imposter syndrome thing because I'm
It
not perfect, but
absolutely.
I know that you've shared on social media a little bit about like not making waves and not coming forward because of your background and culture. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That has been one of my biggest struggles throughout growing my business. And you've heard me in private conversations of, um, I mean, it is when you're growing up as an Asian American, you backstory is my family immigrated into Hawaii um, back when the sugar plantation was at its height. And people were separated by ethnicity. So there was a Filipino camp, there was a Japanese camp, they were just all separated. And every ethnicity had different pay amounts.
Mm,
So one might be 25 cents for the for 2 weeks pay, and that's the reality of the rate at that time. And it really did. And so one of the things that was very common, and it's considered one of the pillars of I know the Japanese community, and I'm sure it's in many other communities, is that you don't make waves, you don't be seen. If something bothers you, you just hold it in.
mm,
if you do not cause trouble. Like if your words stir a conversation that is, could be complicated a little bit socially, you just don't say anything at all.
Mm.
And I still held that come moving to the mainland. So I was the first generation to move to the States. And when that happened, it was a huge culture shock. Because if I'm being really honest, in Hawaii, we are part of the majority.
Oh, yeah.
And in the mainland, there are my daughter and my son are the only Asian Americans within their schools.
Wow.
And so we're in a community that we're definitely the minority. And to be able to break that within my business and help guide my children has been like I just need to do it. And my husband's always been a little bit more braver than I have in that area, and he's a Pacific Islander. But for myself, it was I'll just hang out in the back behind the scenes of businesses. I don't need to be seen. Um, I'm okay if somebody tells me maybe I'm not ready for camera. I'm okay if somebody tells me that I shouldn't, I shouldn't build my own business because you're just not the face of the brand type of
So
person.
you were letting everyone else's labels and opinions really define who you were as a person and letting them kind of shape your story around that.
Mhm. And because you don't want to say anything, you don't want to make waves, you just kind of go with the flow and you're just like, okay. And
Was
I'm
there a
gonna be
moment?
honest.
Was there a specific moment? What changed that for you? Where you decided, you know what, I'm going to put all of these stories and these labels and everything behind, and I'm just going to own it.
To be completely honest, I needed outward people to tell me that. It needed
Mm.
to stop outwardly for me. So there were two specific people that were just like, what are you doing back here? Like you have so much to offer the world and you're doing so many great things, but nobody's seeing it. How many more people can you help if you just step forward?
Mm.
And so from that point, it was like, what if I don't? Like, who am I not affecting and like inspiring? And it's a heavy weight in my brain. Like, to inspire somebody else, that's a lot of responsibility. And so I was like, but what if I don't? Like, is that other young Asian American girl gonna just hide behind the scenes and
Because
not?
sometimes you need to be the person to, I don't know if there's an analogy, to like surf through the waves, that you use that thing that's powerful, that no one knows how to control, but you own it. And you say,
Yes,
I'm going to take this force of nature and I'm going to write it out and I'm going to create something new and different and harness that energy to be myself and really
absolutely.
embrace it. And that's what you've been able to do, because I think I knew you for months before I knew that you worked for a huge blogger and got the millions and millions of views and generated millions of dollars in revenue off of the products that you launched and your strategy behind the scene. But you were never given credit for that.
And it's one of those things where to this day, like I like to say those numbers is overwhelming for me. Like there's a very fine line, and I don't think it's specific to the Asian community. I think this is a little bit of a female thing, and I also think this is a little bit of like, wherever you grew up in your environment, and you don't brag.
Mm.
And technically, like I've learned since moving to the mainland, there's a difference. You have to be able to share those numbers be to show you're valid, like you know what you know. And to say that our record, or my record, I always do that. My record to date is 2.4 million page views per month on a blog
In a month,
in a month.
2.4
Yeah.
million page views in a month on just one blog. I mean,
Yes.
that's what anyone who writes or has a blog, that's like the stuff that makes you salivate to say, oh my gosh, this is what I'm aspiring to. And as a result, it's able to produce that revenue because you have the eyeballs on it, right?
And it's to finally say that out loud more regularly has been more empowering for me because it's like, okay, it's I'm not bragging. I'm just laying out the numbers so I know what I'm talking about.
Right. It's that social proof
Hmm.
that, just even acknowledging that contribution that you've made and putting it into those hard numbers and those metrics. It's exactly right what you've been
Yes.
able to do.
It's funny, but I mean, even I mean, when I first met Jen in person,
Like
as we
me?
talked, yes, when I
Okay.
first met you, remember, like, I came back and I was just like, you know what, like, I don't know if you know this, but I need to tell you this. But when I see you, it's almost like your spirit just dances through the room because you have such a happy spirit, and you always talk about being an introvert, and I totally get it. Your physical body is introverted, but dang, girl, your soul is like Miss Butterfly over there. Like, hey,
I
how you
love
doing?
people. I love people, and to be able to connect with them. I love to build deep and meaningful connections. And I believe that you can do that online. Most of the people I know, I've never met in real life, or I've just met them once in person. I've only physically seen you in person one time because you weren't
That's
able to come to
right.
our mastermind thing in September, and I didn't come to this last one. But I know you. I know you through our interactions. I knew a little bit about you before, like, okay, not I didn't cyber stalk you, but like I followed you because you were friends with my friends, and I'm like, I want to know Chris Jerry. I want to know CJ. I want to know what she does. I think she's amazing. I've heard things about her, and I was able to connect with you through that social media because you showed up authentically online. And when I saw you really claim your story and say, look, this is who I am, this is where I've come from, that was the moment I'm like, oh my gosh, what a great example, like you mentioned before, to be able to share that message. And I know that you mentioned before that one of the things that held you back were those stories and the people you were surrounding yourself with.
Mhm.
And the people that you surrounded yourself with kind of changed that narrative that you had. Tell me a little bit more about that. How did you surround yourself with those people, or what did you do?
First and foremost, I think it was by nature to be like I was meant to come across the people at that time that I came across with,
Mm.
and they had, like, you know how they say, like, when the moment is right, the teacher appears.
Yes, like that you were ready to be able to connect with
Yes,
certain people.
absolutely. And that's what happened. And then they led me to more people that were of the same mindset, of more empowering and less, I don't want to say degrading, but I mean, I don't know another term for it. Like, there are some people in this world that want to hold you back because they know what your potential is. And then there's other people who want to join you on the journey to that and have you rise to that potential. They want to walk with you and see that story unfold.
Right.
So
That
you can see these.
they're not intimidated.
No.
I think a lot of people think that success is finite.
Mhm.
There's only a limited amount of income. There's a little limited amount of success, or that somehow, even, if you do something or if you're successful, that infringes upon my ability to succeed, especially if
Absolutely.
you're in the same industry as someone else.
Yes.
But I don't view it that way. I'm like, the rising tide lifts all boats, or whatever that Kennedy is quoting as saying, that he didn't really make it up. But whatever, that's the thing. Why not? Why not surround yourself with other people who are successful, who have that energy and that drive? And you
Mhm.
were saying that shifted. How did that shift the most for you? Did it take a certain period of time, or is there a process that you went through?
I think it was very much like a ladder. So I had to go rung by rung to grow internally and externally. It was because I had to solidify the first rung first. Like, okay, people are saying that, like, I really should share this part of my zone of genius. Like, I really should own it. And
Dude,
then you're
you're
like,
like the blogging queen, and like of monetization, like you make it rain. You get those eyeballs on there and everything like that. So they'd said, hey, own that.
yes. And it was just like, that's no, because it's, I'm good. I'm good behind the scenes. So then then you believe that first rung is possible, and then you own it. So that's strong enough to step to the next rung. And so really understanding that you have to internally believe before you step to the next level. Because when you try to climb so fast and you don't even believe the first three things you've been told, or you don't believe in yourself in this area or that area, you're building on sand. Because
Does
at
that
some
happen?
point,
Have you seen that happen in your life at all, when you've had
all
those
the
moments
time,
where you've moved forward, like that you just fall?
yes,
It's harder to get back on that ladder at that point too,
it
because you're like,
very is.
dang, I thought I was doing great. I thought I was moving forward, and then, oh my goodness,
You
nope.
have that, I tried, I failed, I'm done. Like, and then you're like, then somebody, then they remind you, you tried, but, you know, let's try again. And you're like, ugh. And then you got to believe. And then you can start building on, bricks and rather than the sand. Because if you don't like, everybody could tell you how amazing you are. And if you don't internalize that and own that, then it really doesn't matter.
Nope.
But we'll all sit all day and internalize and accept the negative comments. It must be
Right.
true.
And absorb them, especially online, because people will, shame you, criticize you. Who does she think she is? Like that's the one.
Yes.
And it can prevent us from being in that zone of genius, to owning what it is that we do and using that, like you mentioned before, to be able
Mhm.
to inspire those around us. Now, do you do like I know that you wrote a poem that I have like printed and I put it on my wall to like remind me. I like to keep visual reminders. Are there anything that you do like to visually remind yourself, or conversations that you have, or certain go-to lessons you need to
I
learn?
I actually like when I need to be centered and I can't find it outwardly, or I can't find it internally. Music, lyrics, I mean, like, because it's a form of poetry to me.
Hmm.
I first started writing back in, I think it's about when my parents got divorced. The therapist at the time suggested that that was a great way for me to kind of release some of the feelings. And from, I think that was about 8. So I started writing poetry at about 8. Um, and then from there, I did short stories. And my first, like the short story I did in college, won for the state. And that was talking about
Wow.
generational issues, like how we dream, our dreams and goals are so much different in the different generations we're in. And because we have different external issues. And so for me, it's words, lyrics, music. Sometimes I listen to instrumentals so I can fill in the blanks of what my emotions are, need to say. And I was able to cross off one of the things on my bucket list. And one of my friends took my poems and turned it into an actually produced song on an album. So
Oh,
that was
wow.
super exciting.
Heck yeah. And knowing that you have that gift and talent from childhood to be able to write, and then you've taken that to be able to blog and teach other people how to use their words to
Mhm.
impact more people around the world, and use their words to be able to make money too. Because I think it's great to have, a hobby or something that we're passionate about. But man, when we can make money doing
Yeah.
what we love, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love
Yeah.
it. I geek out about branding, and you and I have talked about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's atomic
Yeah.
orange that I'm using on me right now. And it's been used on Corvettes. And I love it because it's fiery and bright. And other people are like, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm
I
like
know, we're
in the
walking
middle of my
around.
fonts and I'm like, oh, Poppins. I love it. It's
Yes.
geometric.
We'll be out in the wild and be like, oh, that's playlist script right there. And,
Right.
I'm
Right.
just like, and my husband's like, but why? Why is
Right.
that important?
But owning that, I mean, and I call it, it's kind of cringy, it's
Mhm.
cheesy, it's awkward, but that's part of who you are and what you're passionate about and what you love. And so sharing that side, especially in social media, so you don't have to be like that perfect. People need authenticity.
And I mean, it starts at, and it starts back at home. One of the things, I mean, like I told you, I don't know if it was on the live or previously, but we, you know, changing the path for our children is such a huge part of why we build our business, not only financially, the legacy, but the example we set. And
Mm.
I sat with my daughter one time, actually, after I believe it was one of your videos. And because, and I was like, you know, I've been doing, she likes my reels and she does all, like, she interacts and engages. She's like, I'm first, whatever. And I was like, how do you really feel? Like, are you okay with, me being on social media? She's like, it's part of your job. And she's like, I'm proud of you for, stepping out. And, I
Oh, that's
know
awesome.
what it means because she understands the cultural boundaries. She's aware of them and she sees how they affect my life. And and she also sees how I'm trying to change that for her.
So she
And to me,
recognizes that the voice and you putting yourself out there on social media is really
yeah. And
the reason why.
so I told her, I really wish I could, I want a way to help more people. And how do I reach, other Asian American girls and women who are just don't believe that they should be up front and center. And she's like, well, aren't you doing that already? Like,
Oh,
I'm
love
like,
it.
oh, how am I doing that now? Like, I don't have the reach. I don't have this big community. And she says, every time you go live, every time you're on a reel, every time you do any of those things, it'll make its way to the people that it needs to make its way to, right?
Right.
I'm
You can
like,
influence millions of people without having millions of followers. I mean, I don't have millions of followers, but the people I'm friends with are influencers. You can influence that one person, and that's that ripple effect where it can impact others. That's what you're doing. It's
yeah.
amazing.
And so I see it where like we're having conversations that I know would have not been normal if I had had them with my grandmother or even my mother.
Mm.
And we're having them and laughing and crying and being in it in the moment. And I think to me, if there's one thing from my business that like you could not put a price tag on at all, it would be these conversations that we're having.
As like the mother to daughter and say, okay, this is what it's like culturally. This
Hmm.
is what I've done to overcome things, or how does it connect? I mean, and my sons called me the cringy mom, or no, they didn't even want me to brand myself as the cringy mom. Like they're super cringe. They're like, I don't want my friends to even know you have a social media account. And I'm like, this is why I'm doing it though. I'm not doing it to be TikTok famous. I'm not doing
Hmm.
it to have a viral video and say, look at me, look at me. I'm doing it to grow my business, to provide the quality of life that I want for my
Right.
family. And I know that my one voice can make a difference, even if it's just to one person. Yes, I want to be able to build my business and have clients as a result for personal branding, but it's knowing that I was there, that I didn't want to be seen, that I didn't want to be on video. And if I can get one other woman to record
Hmm.
that video and post it, even though she's scared, even though she's awkward and cringy like I am, I've done a great job.
We both are. And the fun, I mean, it was your blooper reel. I was like, that's a great idea. Like, so I put up together my own blooper reel, and I was like, you know what? If you had told yourself like 3 or 4 years ago you were going to show the mistakes that you made while
Oh,
you're doing
never,
recruitment, yeah,
never. Oh, I'm such a perfectionist. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, it has to be good. And that's why I took all the classes and did all the lessons and everything like that and watched all these influencers and they all say different things, dude. They're
yeah,
all like, no, you have to do it this way. You have to post it this time. You have to do that. And when I finally let go, I was like, to heck with it. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to own myself. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be Jen. I stumble over my words, I whatever.
yeah,
That's what people connect with. That's why I want to have these conversations live. I'm not going to go back through and edit out all my
yeah.
ands, thes, whatevers, and say, oh, look, this is that's not how life is.
It is not, absolutely not. And had we stuck on that perfectionist path, and we'd be lying, I think, well, I can't say it for you, but
Oh, yeah.
we'd be lying if we didn't have to battle that day to day, like we do,
Every
but
time
we
I push
still,
record,
yeah.
every time I push record, and I've done 3 videos today. This is my third thing that I've done today. And I still get that pit in my stomach.
Hmm.
Not just, oh, is no one going to watch? No one's going to care. It's the voice, and it's my own voice. Who does she think she is? Who is she, to do whatever?
Right.
And what makes her so great at that? Well, me. It's my story. I'm not talking about anyone else. I'm talking about myself, which, whatever. Do that all
Absolutely.
day and everything like that. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you
Same.
showing up and being who you are wherever you are and inspiring me to be able to cringe forward and own that. So thank you.
I
Can you
love you
I
too.
say it? How can people get a hold of you and hire you to be able to help grow their blogs or just connect with you because you're awesome?
I am at it's virtual collab hub on both Facebook and Instagram, and my website is just christinejerry.com. So
Fantastic. And you're
find
on
me.
social media, like at all of those different places, and they can connect at
Yes,
christinejerry.com. And I think you have like a freebie or something like that that you give away on your homepage as well, that they can,
yes. There's always something on the homepage. Whether
right? A little flavor to be able to help people grow their business and everything like that. I want to thank everyone who was here today, who showed up, even if it was for a few minutes, to be able to listen to our conversation, to be able to see that connection. And I'm going to challenge you to be able to cringe forward, that your voice has value, your message has meaning, and you deserve to be heard. I'll see
absolutely.
you later on this week on Friday, and I'm going to have a conversation with Dawn Hunter, and she's going to tell me a little bit about what she did to be able to cringe forward in her business as an entrepreneur. Thank you.